My dad goes and meets me at a restaurant. He wants me to meet his new girlfriend. He's a little nervous because she's close to my age. Yeah, I guess he likes the younger type these days. Not a big deal, I'm not really going to judge him. But can you believe when I show up to this restaurant who I see sitting there at the table? My ex-girlfriend. This is all such a mess. I really don't know what I'm supposed to do or how I'm supposed to feel about it. For some backstory, my dad is not my biological father. He and my egg donor started dating when I was 2 and got married when I was 4. Then they got divorced when I was 16. Honestly, I was far closer to my dad than I was to my egg donor, and my egg donor would regularly abuse both of us. After the divorce, he tried to stay in touch with me, but my egg donor purposely isolated him from me because she was so mad that he finally became confident enough in himself to escape from her abuse. She was able to get a protective order placed on both of us to completely limit contact after the divorce, and then financially blackmailed me to continue to isolate me from him while she paid for my college. As soon as I graduated from college when I was 21, I completely cut off contact with her and reached out to him again. Even though it's been over 5 years since we last spoke at that point, I was very happy to have him in my life again. My ex-girlfriend and I dated while I was in college. I was pretty low-key about the relationship because I was pretty sure if my mom ever found out I was a lesbian, she would also cut me off completely. We started dating when I was 18 and dated for almost 3 years. I also never told my dad about her, since we broke up only a few months after we reconnected. He did comfort me through the breakup, but he never met her or really knew anything about her. That brings us to last night. My dad and I have a standing dinner date for every other Wednesday, but we've both been busy for the last month, so I haven't seen him since before Thanksgiving. He told me that he would be bringing his girlfriend to tag along. And I have to admit that I was both sad because it would not be just the two of us like it normally is, but also excited to finally meet her. Unfortunately, once I reached the restaurant, I'm absolutely shocked, floored, to see my dad sitting there with my ex-girlfriend. I'm shocked at this point to see them together, and when my dad introduces her to me, he introduces her as his fiance, and tells me that he wanted me to be the first to know. Apparently, they got engaged 2 weeks ago, but hadn't even told anyone except for her parents, who I've even met before. I must have a shock look on my face because he starts going into this whole thing about how he knows that I might be uncomfortable with him dating a girl who's so close in age to me, and how the age gap concerned him too, especially because of my egg donor. Well, I would never compare him to her since she was literally a groomer who starts dating her tutoring student when he was 17 and then married him when he was 19. The entire time I was talking to him, though, I was staring right at my ex-girlfriend in complete shock. It ended up being way too weird for me, so I just told them I need to go after like 5 minutes. My dad texted me again today telling me how she was sorry to ambush me with that information, and that he was sorry that it came off the way it did. He told me once again that he understood if the age gap made me uncomfortable, but he hoped I didn't think he was some kind of creep for dating a woman so much younger than him. He then told me that he felt like he was truly happy for the first time in 20 years, and he hoped that I could also accept this even if it took me a long time. I, on the other hand, am just completely lost. I'm pretty sure he doesn't know that we've dated, and I really don't know whether or not I should even tell him. I don't have anyone else to go to about this, since he's literally the person I would vent to normally. So I just decided to let it out on here. Quick edit. I'm going to text my ex-girlfriend. I know most of you think she already knew or that she targeted him or something, but I just can't believe that. For one, my father and I don't have the same last name, and like I mentioned in a comment, we look nothing alike since he's Asian and I'm white. I also never told my ex that he was not my biological father, or even told him his name. Do people do that? I don't think I've ever said my dad's name without referring to him. That's so weird to me. I just always called him Dad. The only thing I told my ex about the past was that my egg donor forced my father away from me, and I didn't really talk about it besides that because it hurt too much. I did tell her when my dad and I started reconnecting, but our relationship was already pretty much ending at that point. Like I said, there wasn't really any animosity or anything, we just sort of fell out of love with each other. She initiated the breakup, but after talking through it, it was completely mutual. Anyways, since I don't know whether or not she knew, and I have no reason to believe that she was going out of her way to date my father, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and tell her that she needs to tell him, and that if she doesn't, I will. Also, some of you asked me why I haven't told him already and why I said nothing at dinner. I want all of you to understand how important my father is to me. I had to lose him so long, so I do treat our relationship with some extra care sometimes. I also feel extremely guilty about what happened to him, and I can't help but feel like it's partially my fault that he lost so much of his life. I'm almost certain that part of the reason he even stayed with my egg donor for so long was because of me. He was going through physical and emotional abuse on a daily basis, and a significant portion of it was to protect me from her. I'm pretty sure if he didn't love me as much as he did, and if he wasn't so scared how much worse my egg donor would treat me without him around to protect me, he would have left much sooner. I feel terrible about the idea of him being happy finally, and me ruining it by telling him the truth. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So this is an absolute wild story. If you think it's crazy right now, though, just wait until I jump into this update. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome. My name's Mr. Reddito. I read stories every single day of some of the most dramatic stories I can find on the World Wide Web. If that sounds like something you're into, go ahead and click that subscribe button, and let's jump into this update. So, I wasn't really planning on making another post, but I've gotten multiple messages asking for one. And then I was scrolling through TikTok and I suddenly saw my post pop up. It was actually bizarre, since I've had only a handful of posts come up on TikTok. I remember that guy who played that weird song whenever he had intercourse with his girlfriend. Remember that? Anyways, most of the messages were really nice, except for the handful of people who told me that I should have a threesome with my dad and my ex. Seriously, what's wrong with you people? Anyways, I figured I'd let you all know what happened. Since things have settled down a bit, this is going to be pretty long, so in case you just wanted to know the conclusion, it's basically my dad and Steph, which is my ex's name, they're no longer together. My dad and I are fine, and I'm looking forward to putting this all behind us. Now it gets a lot deeper. Time for the long story. I would just like to remind everyone that my dad is technically my stepfather, but he's the only father figure I've ever had, and I've always just called him my dad. So, as I mentioned as an edit to my last post, I was planning on texting Steph. I did end up texting her, and like 5 minutes later she called me. We talked for like an hour, and she basically told me that she was just as surprised as I was. And she had absolutely no idea my dad was also her boyfriend. She said she was still reeling and was planning on telling him soon, but didn't know how to do it. I already know that some of you are going to ask her how I believe this. To answer a few questions I saw in the post, my dad, he does not have a social media except for LinkedIn, LOL, and doesn't really have any pictures of me in the house. I also don't really use social media very much in an effort to keep the woman who gave birth to me completely out of my life. The only picture I've ever seen is one from my college graduation, and that one is just hanging in his office. A lot of people also assume that Steph and I went to the same college. I did meet her while I was in college, but we did not go to the school together. I honestly just assumed my father didn't really talk about me at all much, especially since our relationship was still in the early stages of reconnecting. I'll admit, though, that the comments did sort of get to me, and they did make me kind of suspicious, but I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. So, at the end of the call with Steph, she told me that she was going to talk to him that night. I agreed, and she stayed by the phone. But I never got a call from my father, which I thought was weird. I called Steph in the morning and asked her if she talked to him. She said that he just needed some space right now. She said it would be best if I didn't talk to him about it. I thought that was really weird, so I decided to text my dad anyways. I asked him if Steph had talked to him, and he said that they have. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it, and he said he would prefer not to, and that he thought it would be best if we just took a step back from our relationship. He said that he was really dealing with a lot, and this was all extremely hard for him. I have to say, I was pretty heartbroken when he said all that, and it really got me thinking. A lot of you asked me if I'd be okay with my dad marrying Steph, and honestly, I really wouldn't be. I don't really like the idea of him dating anyone just because of how easily he's manipulated. I knew he's been in a relationship, but I'd always told him that I didn't really want to hear about it, and that all that mattered was that he was happy. So we never really talked about his romantic life. However, I realized that even if I wasn't happy about it, and even if I seriously hated it, I wouldn't want to risk losing my father over it. He matters way too much to me. So, I decided I'd give him a day, and then went over to his place on Sunday. He looked pretty uncomfortable when he saw me, but I wasn't taking no for an answer. So, he let me in. We sat in silence for a few moments before I basically just told him that we need to talk about this. He was pretty quiet, and he was pretty much sitting as far as he could from me. So I told him that I really did not want my previous relationship with Steph to change my relationship with him, and that I was okay with him getting married. He looked kind of confused, and what being friends with Steph had to do with any of it. It was my turn to be confused now. So I asked him if Steph talked to him again. He said that she had, and he didn't really know how to deal with the information. It really seemed like he was tiptoeing around the subject, and he would not even look me in the eyes. So I finally just asked him, what did Steph say? She told him I was in love with him. That's right, this crazy, manipulative, word I can't use apparently, really told him that I've admitted my sexual attraction for him years ago. Apparently, her story was that we were friends, not girlfriends, just friends, and I was in college, and that we've gotten really close, and I told her my secret. I was pretty appalled to learn that she said that, but I told her about how the woman who gave birth to me claimed that my father and I had an illicit and inappropriate relationship to get the protective order. She knew that would be a sensitive topic for my father, and apparently she encouraged him to take some space away from me. Yeah, at this point, you can guess it, I was enraged. I couldn't believe she would really do something like that. After that, I told him the cold, hard, honest truth. I told him about Steph and how we dated years ago and how I was pretty sure she made all that up so I wouldn't tell him. He believed me pretty quickly, especially when I showed him a picture of the present she gave me for our first anniversary. My dad didn't really say anything besides just apologize to me over and over again, and telling me how he's sorry he was believing her. I told him it's okay, and we just hugged it out. After that, he called up Steph and asked her to come over. I've honestly never seen him like that. He's normally such a happy guy, but the look on his face was absolutely terrifying. Steph did end up coming over almost right away, actually, and it looked like she knew what was going to happen because she was just staring at the floor. I won't lie, when I saw her, I really wanted to just rip her hair out of her head, but sitting beside my father really helped me calm down. My dad told her that he knew the truth. Steph apologized over and over again to the both of us. Apparently, she had no idea that I was his daughter at the beginning of the relationship, and she didn't make the connection until they've been dating for over a year and had started discussing marriage. She said that she felt like it was, quote, too late at that point, and that she felt like she could not lose him. That was apparently why she pushed back on the idea of meeting me, and why she really did not want to have that dinner with me either. Although, she told him that it was because of the age gap and that she was afraid of me judging her. Apparently, she was the one who convinced him that I'd be really against their relationship because of the age gap. She said that she told him the story about us being friends, and me admitting my fantasies about my father to her because she hoped that it would keep the two of us apart. When I asked her if she was really going to ruin my relationship with my father over a lie like that forever, she said that she was going to tell the truth once they were married, since she was sure he couldn't go anywhere at that point unless he divorced. Apparently, she, quote, would never dream of separating us again. What a load of bullcrap she's full of. Steph was crying pretty much the entire time, and getting all the information out of her was like pulling absolute teeth. But eventually, we learned the truth. Or at least as much as it could be of the truth. She begged him to not end their relationship, but my father was pretty much just done with it at this point. That's when she really started going hysterical, and I swear she had a full-on mental breakdown. She'd kept screaming at me how I ruined her life, and I was honestly scared she was going to hurt me or my father. Luckily, she didn't, and she did calm down after a while. Although she was still curled up on the floor, I felt pretty bad for her seeing her like that. But then I remembered what she tried to do, and I just got angry all over again. I'm guessing some of my dad's neighbors must have called the police because they knocked at the door asking about a domestic disturbance. My dad's really scared of the police because of how the women who gave birth to me had weaponized them against him in the past. So I ended up going to talk to them. Steph tried to grab me as I walked to the door, but she could not even get herself off of the floor. I told the police that she was refusing to leave, and eventually they were able to escort her out. My dad and I were pretty shaken up about it, but we decided to try to get some takeout and watch one of my favorite movies together. We're pretty much just hugging it out together the entire time until we fell asleep on the couch. It really felt so good. I was just so happy. So, that's that. Steph is officially out of my father's life, and I've convinced him to change the lock so she doesn't try to get in again. I've also tried convincing him to try to get a protective order against her, but he isn't willing to do that just yet. He's convinced that he's not going to be able to get one, so it would just be a waste of time. But the woman who gave birth to me had done it pretty easily, so I figured there's a good chance anyways. Especially, with the police report I'm guessing the officer had to file. In the meantime, I'm going to stay with him, at least until he gets the locks changed. I told him I'd like to move in here with him once my lease ends in March, and he told me he'd think about it. Right now, I just want to be around my dad. I hope you're all satisfied with the update. I can't say I'm happy about everything that's happened, but I'm really glad that my dad and I are okay. I really feel bad about what all went down, especially for my father, but I think he just needs to take some time away from dating, especially because of how many times things have got messed up for him. He agrees that he said that he thinks he'd just like to focus on work, building up our relationship as well, and I really hope that I can help him through all this. I'm probably not going to post an update anymore. Thank you, everybody who's followed along. This is one of those situations you can't even fake. Wow. Imagine being in this situation and you were the father and you were lied to at first. You didn't even know the truth that OP was actually ex of that girl. Oh man, no. You thought that your stepdaughter had a crush on you because the girl you're dating lied to you. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about this story. Here's one of the comments. I had a college roommate whose father had married his son's widow and was raising his young grandchildren as his children. As you can imagine, she and her sister were not very close with him. Guys, I promise this story is outrageous, but I want to know exactly your thoughts on it. So tell me about the situation in the comments down below. That's going to end today's video. That's all the stories for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, you're going to want to do that so you don't miss any future videos. Have an amazing night. I'll catch you later.